sleepy. What the? Hey, when did you guys get here? I'm so glad you made it. Today we want to talk about another project on the volute, a continuation of the last one, and this is getting drug out too far down the road. So we're going to stop kicking this can, and we're going to finish up with the final step on the volute with safe bandsaw cutting of a wreath piece. And we're going to talk about falling molds and also the cap with the volute. We need to be able to lay that out so that we can carve it. Remember, this series was based more on the old style of getting the finished piece out, whether you're using bandsaw and chisel or whatever it might be. I wanted to go back to someone else's future on this thing and start at the point where I started to maybe give you hope that that you're able to do this. So I'd like to help you on your journey. So without getting carried away with an intro, oh well, let's get started. Here we are in Rhinoceros, my drawing program. And if you remember the last time we ended this volute series, volute 2, I mentioned after we got the face mold laid on there and got our cutting lines on, I said, now you have the dandy task of cutting this out. And you know that's not going to be easy. So here's what we're about ready to cut with the bandsaw. Because this is a twisted surface, you can understand that's not going to be easy. So we have a surface on this side as well that's twisted. So I'd like to go into the way that I would cut these out, which makes it safer and easier. Basically 2 cuts, easy cuts with the bandsaw, and you got it here. So let me go into some of my layers here if I can find them. I just got done with this, so here we go. We got some, that's not it. Let me see where we're at here. Bevels, that's not it either. So something has changed. Here we go. I think this is it. So we have the tangents. The tangents that we got from the drawing for this piece, this wreath piece. And if you need a little review, we're talking about this piece right here on the volute. We went through the process of how to do the face mold on that and get ready to cut it. But I want to go through a good way of cutting this thing out. And we're going to go back to the tangents because these are going to be a great help in laying this thing up so that we can bandsaw this out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our tangents, the upper and lower tangent drawing, and we're going to stand that up. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees up in space, which is what we have here. And then we're going to take and rotate the C and D lower tangent 90 degrees, and we're going to come up with this drawing right here, which is what we're going to use as the foundation to get set up to bandsaw this out. So we're going to need some math here, some angles, make sure we get it right. And then we're going to take a couple pieces of 1x and we're going to cut them to the proper angles. It's 36.87 angle, and it also has a slight angle on the top to match the angle coming out here, this 6.7 degree bevel. So we're going to take each one of these pieces now, and we're going to place them in the back here, and we're going to yeah, we're going to do that too. Yeah. Now we're going to take and put a base underneath this thing and hot glue these things on. And after we get them situated, we're going to situate those on a set of square lines on here that's going to represent our tangent lines. So then we're going to take the blank, this blank right here, and we're going to set it on this thing on our tangent lines. How about that? Let's take a look at how that's sitting here. You can see that we have all our lines on here that we work through on our drawing and our face molds to get these lines on here. And we have the tangent lines on the bottom that we're going to glue directly onto, hot glue this thing directly onto this upper pitch tangent and the lower pitch tangent. We're going to line them up direct. You can see how that lines right up with our tangents here on the bottom and on the top. This is the shifted tangent here. Alright, so once you got that set up, then you're going to be putting your face mold on here again, and you're going to be drawing some lines off of the face mold. You see that, you can see our face molds in proper position through these windows here. And then we're going to remove those, and we're going to be cutting on these blue lines here. And we should end up with something that's squared out, similar to, where are we at here? This right here. Alright, so we have our squared out sides here. Much easier to cut it with the handrail piece in the pitch that it would be on the stairs, because as you know, this system, the sides of the mold are always plumb straight down, so it would make perfect sense to cut this with it standing up in pitch. So once we get that on there, then we're going to have to get our falling molds on the side here. So that's going to be the next section of this video here. We're going to go right to determining how to get the falling mold to put on here. In the last video, we kind of just came in from the top and bottom of our mold and did the same on the top and kind of just drew some freehand lines in here, and we showed you how to transfer those same lines to the other side so that they would be done properly, and then the top of this squared out wreath would be level across to the center line of the mold. So let's jump right into the falling molds here. Falling molds you can take from your original drawing, and that's just what we're going to do. Before we go, I want to show you some pictures here. These are pictures that of a piece of rail that I did probably 15 to 20 years ago, if I can find them here. Alright, this is, I don't have a base on this, but that was how I did it at that point in my life. So I got a piece of wreath rail in here with my tangents made into out of plywood, glued right to the shifted tangent on the bottom of our blank. And here's the top with a printed out um, face mold on the top here. And on this one I had cut out the bottom here, even with the lower end of our squared out block. And it was made it easier to set that on the bandsaw without a base underneath it. But there we go. That's that one. This one's already squared out now. I keep twisting this photo like I'm going to be able to scroll it, like I'm scrolling, panning in the Rhino. So this is another one. It was part of another video series that I did. The same setup with our block underneath here, the pitch block, and I had a prop glued on the side, and also the final ones here. So you can see from the top how nicely this outside line lines up with the lower piece here. And this is what it looks like when the sides were squared out. So what we're going to do now is go to falling molds. I find it much easier for me to have something that I know is going to be right on one side and correctly oriented with the first one on the other side. And this kind of thing is a little bit crazy to just throw some bent guide here, flexible guide, to try and put these lines on. I found it to be easier. Some people think it's a waste of time, but to me, I liked it. Here's the finished piece with the falling molds on both sides and all squared out. So that's what we're going to do now. So let me, where did that go? I'm going to turn that off and jump back in here to our original drawing. And we're going to start with taking this center line and dividing it up into 6 pieces. A 6 is no magic number, it just seems to work good with this size piece of wreath. So 6 equally spaced pieces here, dots on here, points. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to draw a line that's the same length, if you stretch this out, the same length as this center line is, and we're going to divide that up into 6 equal pieces. And we're going to do the same with the inside radius and the outside radius. Get the lengths of those and stretch out a straight line and divide it the same amount of spaces. And then we're going to take and throw some lines here which are parallel to the directing ordinate. Remember how we got that. It's a continuation of the upper pitch where it hits the baseline and then out to the joint, center of joint. That becomes the directing ordinate, and it's used in a lot of things that you do in tangent handrailing. Important line. So then we're going to copy that line and run it through each one of these points up to the baseline or the tangent line here in plan. And because we want to represent what's on the tangent, we can't just run this line up to the baseline. Wherever it hits the tangent line, that we have to swing an arc up to this baseline up here for the next step. So the next point that we're going to do is running perpendicular lines off the baseline up to the tangent lines in elevation. And once we get those, then we can run some lines horizontally across where we have waiting for us now are stretched out inside, outside, and center of the mold. And we're going to take and run some lines up off of those points, and you can see this is starting to look like something now. So what we're going to do next is we're going to copy this stub on the end and bring it over to the top of each one of these drawings here, and then start working our lines in. So we brought that stub over, and then we ran a line to intersect each one of these points. And this is the center falling line. It's not going to help us much as far as laying out our sides, but because it's right in the center of the block. So what we're looking for is the inside and outside radius falling lines. So we have them here, and just a little note on this way that I do this. Because there's at the spring point, a lot of times there's a drastic transition in the pitch. So I like to spread that out a little bit. This would be the original pitch line. So I would take my my spline commander and her plate of points, and I'd come down on that pitch line maybe to about here or a little further, and then I skip this top point and go right to the second point. It just eases that transition out just a little bit. I do the same thing on the outside falling mold. This is the pitch that the rail is coming down at. So I just ease that point out. I skip this point and go right to the next one. And then once I get that taken care of, I'm going to copy these three falling molds and bring them down here and stand them up, which is, we got to go into perspective view here, and you'll see these falling molds copied out here and rotated 90 degrees up into space. Then we're going to take and fill them in so we can see them a little bit better, and we're going to take our the block that we had over here, we're going to bring that over in the same position, and we're going to print these out and spray glue them onto the sides here. Let's take that and do that right now. So you can see our falling molds pasted onto the side of each block. And now the beauty of this is that we already know now that we can draw a level line across from center of our mold, the center of radius, right across the top of this one and the top of the outside one, and it's going to be level. And if our center one was put in the middle, it would be directly across all three of them. So they're all lined up the way that they should be, which is what we want to do. So we can go back now to our final approach here on this thing, and we got this in here like this, and we even have the finished carved rail right in the middle there. You can see that sitting in there. That's how this thing's going to look when it's all done. After you cut on those falling lines, molds that we put in there, and square it up, and then you have the fun job of profiling that squared out piece of wood. So now we're going to move right along and get this out of here. We're going to go right to our cap. The cap is what we're going to be looking at next, and that happens to be this piece right here. That one is what we're looking for. We didn't talk about these two pieces because once you've done this one, the same procedure would be on this one. And this is a level quarter turn here, which you shouldn't need any help with. So we're going to take that piece now, which is basically this piece right here. We're going to take that piece and we're going to move it over to here. This is the outline of that piece that we just looked at, and this happens to be the finished piece that is right above it here, and we're going to put a block on that thing. There we go. Alright, this is what we're going to attempt to do. Is we're going to bandsaw this piece out of a block of wood, And our desire is that we be able to know how to put the valley in there, which can get a little tricky. Let's zoom in on that guy here and take a look at that. Once we bandsaw the outside, piece of cake, right? Now we have to figure out how to carve this valley in here and get it to look like it belongs there, like it flows with the whole piece. So that's what we're going to attempt to do on this drawing right here. We're going to find a way to lay this thing out so that we can get what we need out of here. And I got a red line on, there we go. Okay, so turn that back on, and we're going to put a center line in here. This is going to help us to lay this out a little bit and to explain what's going on here. You can see how where this starts, we have a full width of handrail, and the center cap is a little bit more than half of the handrail profile, revolved around this outside radius. And you can probably see that up here. This is the inside is completely around the cap, but we're going to be morphing this outside piece of rail into that circle, and we're going to be forming a valley in here as we do it, as the two pieces merge together. So this is how we're going to look at this thing. On this part of the drawing, we really don't need the bottom part of the rail, so we clipped off the top part and brought it down here. So we have a full width piece of rail that's going to sit right on the top of this section here, and it's going to butt into this, which would be right here. And that is going to make the cap, and this is going to make the handrail that's going to morph into the cap. So what we're attempting to do here is form the valley. As this goes around, it gets closer and closer to that cap. And so this cap is going to be moving in, or this piece moving towards the cap, and it's going to form a valley in there. And it's also, we want to be able to determine where this valley is and how deep it is. This dimension we're looking for right here, the depth of the valley and where it's placed. So in order to do that, we're going to offset this outside part of our cap in the width of the rail. So let's turn that on here. This happens to be the width of the rail offset in. You can see how it's encroaching on this cap here. Alright, so now somewhere in the middle here we're going to have to find a way to put this valley in. So I typically would put some lines in, like divide each quadrant into two pieces and send a line into the center of this radius, and the same with this. And then I would take and trim those off on either side, trim them from the center cap and also our offset line. And so we would get something like this left over. So now what we're going to do is take a line and hit the center point of these lines. And that's going to give us a pretty close placement for our valley. It gets a little tricky here at the end because the way this is set up, it's difficult to put those center lines in here. So we want to find that meeting place where the valley is going to be formed in this volute cap. So we're going to hit each one of these center points, and when we get to here, we're going to wrap this around and click somewhere on this center, on this, you could call it a button in the middle. It's actually flat. It's where the radius stops. It shows it on here on this drawing. This part here would form a round flat when this is revolved around on this cap. So this is where we're at with our cap center line, valley, I'm sorry. So I transferred this line up and put it on top of this cap that I have drawn in 3D. That's the beauty of the 3D drawing process. I can sweep the rail profile around the outside and then sweep the center one around, and it will automatically give me this valley right where it belongs. You have two curves converging, and it's a beautiful thing. So I took my valley line here, and I drug it up here and pasted it in. And I have to confess, I did have to make a few adjustments on this last part here, but that is what you end up having to do. It's the only way I could see to do this, apart from just making yourself a template of this radius and placing it different places and just chisel this thing down until you meet the other one. You're working from both sides into the middle. And that would work. It's a little tough, but I wanted to be able to come up with a little bit better way of determining how to do that. So here we go. So I want to find out whether or not this line is in the right place. So in order to do that, I'm going to place my top radius of the handrail. I'm laying it down here. We will stand it up in a minute, but I needed to lay it down to get it positioned. And I am on the end of this quadrant, and it's into the center point. So it's properly placed. Once it's stood up, it will be right on the top of the finished rail. And we're also going to put the inside cap set up here. And in order to place that, we have to come from the center point out and intersect our valley line here. And when we do that, we can draw a line perpendicular from our baseline up to the left here, and where it intersects that upper curve line is where we're hoping that this one also does the same thing. So if you've got your line here in the right place, when we stand these up, and the other test would be if we draw a circle here from this intersection point to here, that they come to the same place here, which this one is pretty close. If you have ever done anything like this, there's so many points of contact. If you move one, it changes everything, and it can be a nightmare. But we got it pretty close, and I'm happy with that. So we can turn that off here, and let's stand these up so you can see what I'm talking about. Go into perspective mode here a minute. Okay, here's our two profiles stood up, and you can see that when this is in the right place and this is in the right place and our valley is in the correct place, that these lines will line up and meet right as they should over top of one another. Now, let's turn that off. I made my point. So we're doing good there. We got this exactly where we need to do it. And you can take this further if you'd like. We have some more points here. We can go around here and do a couple points here, but I don't think it's that necessary. I think by eye you should be able to make this come out pretty well. And here's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid maybe if you don't have this laid out right, you end up moving this in, and this is going to be where it is no matter what. But if you don't have this valley in the right place, you're going to end up with two pieces coming together like this. And unless you're willing to just take a chisel and not follow the actual profile of the rail down to here, you'd probably be able to see that. So that's what we're attempting to do here, is to eliminate some of that craziness. So I think we just about got this covered here. And I hope you were able to understand my thinking on this thing. So let's go back up here and take a look at this finished product, because this is what we're shooting for here. We want to be able to know how to effectively join, cut these pieces out to be able to join them together into a nice cap. And I think that is really a sweet looking volute, and I hope you do too. And I think we're done with this. Take a last look at the finished product. This is the actual one this drawing came from, and I hope that that may help you on your journey and give you some inspiration. And if for some reason you get stuck, send me an email, send me a text. I've had a number of different people email me with questions, and it was a real joy to help someone over a little pitfall that they weren't able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's a joy to see someone send you a finished product that you were able to be of some benefit to someone else to bring it together. So I think we are all done here, and I hope you enjoyed this whole process, and hopefully we'll see you on the next time. What's going on? Who's out there? I caught you snoring too. All right, get a cup of coffee and come on back. And this is Earl with Custom Handrails, and I'm signing off. So I really hope, most of all, that this was a help to somebody. So I will see you next time. Over and out.